Most people waste their time teaching their dog useless commands or training things out of order. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 5 essential commands that every dog needs to know in the order that you should train them so that you can have a well-trained dog that listens to you anywhere. So this is just what we do. I'll explain why we do each of these things. You can do whatever you want. All right. So number 1, the first thing that I have almost every owner train is the loose leash walking. Loose leash walking is when the dog is able to walk freely in front, behind, to the side. They can sniff, they can pee, they can explore, they can be dogs, but they must not pull on the leash. That's the only rule. Now, loose leash walking is not to be confused with heeling, where the dog has to walk directly at your side until you release them. For me, these are completely different things. I know some trainers will call heeling loose leash walking. For me, these are totally separate. So why do we train the loose leash walking first? Well, there are many reasons. First, it's a very easy behavior to train. So even if you have zero experience with dogs and your dog has been pulling on the leash for the last 5 years, you can train them to walk on a loose leash in 30 minutes. So it's very quick. It's very easy. It's a quick win that builds up your confidence and gets you feeling positive and optimistic about the training. It gets you enjoying the walks again. This is a big one. Walks are like 10 times less stressful when your dog isn't pulling you on the leash the whole time. It teaches you basic leash handling skills. So you're learning how to use the leash properly for the first time. And it's oftentimes the first real boundary that people set with their dogs, especially outside. It's the first time you come in and it's like, hey, dog, don't do that. On the dog side as well, the dog becomes aware that you exist, right? It's like, oh, you were actually on the walk with me, believe it or not. You're like, yeah, I was actually here the whole time, every time. But the dog is now aware of that fact, and they're now aware of where they are, where you are in relation to them the entire time. So you're in here, you're in their head. The next thing is the dog must practice impulse control. So throughout the training, this is one of the primary skills that you're looking to develop in your dog. It's the skill of the dog, I want to do this thing, but I'm going to choose not to do that thing. That's impulse control. And if you're watching this video, your dog could probably use some more impulse control, right? So that's why we start out this way. It's a very easy way for the dog to exercise this muscle. It's like, I would like to pull towards that tree, but I must not pull on the leash, right? So it's a very basic way to start practicing it. Also, the dog gets to enjoy the walk, and you get to enjoy the walk. This is a big one because throughout the training, what you'll see is, at least the way that we train, is we're always looking for ways where the dog and the owner can look forward to something together. That is a huge pillar in your relationship, when you can have things that you both look forward to doing together, and the walk can be one of those things. See, and this is when it starts becoming one of those things. So this is a big deal. And lastly, this is often the first time that you and your dog have come to an agreement that helps you achieve a mutually beneficial outcome for both parties. How can we create this agreement that makes it easy to live with them, makes it beneficial for us and beneficial for them? And in the case of loose leash walking, the dog gets to explore, they get to sniff around, they get to pee, they get to be dogs, they get to have a good time on the walk. But in order for that to happen, you need them not to pull on the leash, because that's a big pain in the ass for you, right? So you can communicate to the dog, hey dog, I will take you out. We're going to go cool places and you're going to have this freedom. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. But in order for me to do that, I need you to not pull on the leash. And if you pull on the leash, there's going to be a consequence. And the dog says, got it. Sounds good to me. Sounds like a mutually beneficial deal, right? And so you've come to that agreement with the dog, and we'll be building on this later on throughout the training. So how do you train it? Well, it's very simple. I break it down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the U-turn phase. Phase 2 is the sporadic walking phase. And phase 3 is the punish the pulling phase. If you do it right, it should take you under 30 minutes to teach your dog this. And we have full breakdowns on YouTube for free, and I'll link them down below in the description. I'll do it for all of these commands. All right, so that's the loose leash walking, one of the very first things we train. And then we move on to the next thing we train, which is the sit in the down command. This is when you put the dog into the sit and down position and they stay there until they're released. even around distractions. And these are very useful, of course. Whenever you need the dog just to hold a static position, you just need them to stay in one spot. Maybe you're on the trail, some people are passing you. You need to put your dog in a sit as they come past. You're at the coffee shop. You need to put the dog in a down under your feet, just simple things like this where you want them to hold the position. The sitting down might look very simple on the surface, but when you open up the hood and you really see what's going on, there's a lot more than most people realize. The reason we train this command next is because this is when you learn how to talk to your dog. This is when you start to learn markers and timing, and you're learning how to motivate your dog. You're understanding the mechanics of reward delivery. You're learning how to use the leash. You're learning how to apply and release pressure. And then once you've got that, now you're learning how to classically condition the verbal cues to the behavior. Like this right here, the nonverbal communication that's occurring, that is how you talk to your dog. That is the language that you're using to communicate with them. And most people don't realize this. Most people think talking to your dog is just the verbal command, the sit down command, right? It's not. This is the actual communication that's taking place. And these are the skills that you're developing in these basic behaviors. You also learn how to problem solve, experiment, and overcome obstacles. Like your dog isn't going to be perfect. Like when you go through this process here, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have problems. You're going to mess up. Your timing is going to be off. You're going to forget your barker sometimes. Like it's all going to happen. You're going to have to figure out how to motivate them. Like there's so many things you're going to have to figure out. And that is dog training. You're starting to exercise this problem solving, experimenting muscle. And that's what you're going to be doing as you're training your dog. So you're doing that in the context of these very simple behaviors, just the sitting down. You're also learning how to control your emotions and increase your tolerance for frustration, because this is a really big one. I think the biggest reason a lot of people quit training their dogs, they just give up and just think they can't do it, is honestly because their tolerance for frustration is so low. Like they run into an obstacle and it's just, can't do it. It's just quit, can't do it. It's not gonna work. It's his breed. It's the age. Like they come up with some weird excuse, right? This right here, this skill, building up your tolerance for frustration, you're gonna get frustrated all the time in the training, like all the time. It's gonna happen. Like you're gonna get frustrated about this and that, and like you're gonna figure out this, and like especially as you progress through the training, like there's gonna be many moments when you feel frustrated. And learning how to control your emotions in those moments and not allowing your emotions to start influencing what you're doing, that is a huge skill that you have to develop, because the moment you start bringing that frustration into the training, your dog is also going to get very frustrated. And so this is a very fundamental skill. You're also learning that there are no real failures in dog training, only feedback, right? So like you're going to mess up this stuff, but you're going to learn that your dog is fine. Like there's nothing, you can try again. You can try again and you can get better, and you can look at what you did last time and think, I wonder what happened here. I wonder what I could change next time, what I could do differently. And then you do it and it works better. And like you start to learn that it's only feedback in dog training. There's no failures. There's no game overs, time to quit. Like it's just feedback. And the dog is constantly giving you that feedback and you're learning how to interpret it. Your dog is also learning that working with you is fun. So if you're doing this right, at least the way that we train, the learning process should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It should be enjoyable for the dog, and it should also be enjoyable for you. Like you should have moments when you're laughing out loud because of this mistake you made. Like you should have moments when you're genuinely proud of your dog. Like that's how it should feel. If it doesn't feel that way, if you're like in the middle of a training session and you catch yourself like not enjoying that, like you just don't like it, it's like something is bothering you, you're frustrated, you're angry, you're upset about something, like whatever it is, that's a red flag. That's a red flag, should be going up. Now, I'm not saying that every moment all the time should be enjoyable, but I'm saying when you zoom out, like if you looked at the session, like that should be like you should be like, yeah, that was a good session. Like you should end the session happy. Like you're like smiling after. Like you look at your dog and you're smiling. That's how the session should end. And your dog is learning that it's fun to work with you in that way. Your dog is also learning how to interpret what you're trying to say. So up here, you're learning how to talk to your dog by doing all this stuff, but you're going to mess it up. Like you're not going to be very clear. A lot of stuff is going to get lost in translation a bit. And that's okay. That's a part of it in the beginning. But your dog is still trying. They're trying to interpret. They're trying to figure out, what are they trying to say to me right here? Oh, they want me to do this thing, I think. Oh, it was this thing, right? So little things. They're trying to figure it out. They're actively listening, if you want to call it that. And you're learning how to cooperate with each other to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome. So this hits on what I was saying earlier, right? When I was talking about coming to that agreement. Here, you guys are further increasing your cooperation skills here. You're learning. The dog is learning as well. They're like, oh, if I work together here, if I pay attention, if I just do this thing, something good happens for me and something good happens for you. So it's mutually beneficial. So how do you train it? How do you train the sits and the downs? Well, the first thing we do is we show the dog how to find the position with the food lure. So very simple. We're just luring the dog into position, lure the dog up into a sit, lure the dog down into a down. And then the next thing we do is we show the dog how to find the position using leash pressure. So we guide the dog into position using the leash. We pull up on the leash to get into the sit. We might come in with the lure, and then once they're there, we reward them. And then we also lure them into the down. We make pressure into the down. Then once they're there, we reward them. And once you and your dog start to get it, then you can start using it out in the actual world. And I'll leave a link in the description of how you can start progressively increasing the distractions to make the command useful in real life. Now, the next thing that we train is the place command. So the place command is when you send the dog to an elevated surface and they stay there until you release them, even around distractions. So you've probably seen me use this inside the house, send the dog to an elevated dog bed, and they just stay there and they relax. Now, the reason this is one of the first things that I have our members train is because oftentimes when people come to me looking for training, their house is on fire. Everything is going wrong. Like the dog is eating their shoes and destroying the couch and peeing on the rug and barking out the window and eating food off the counter. And it's just everything is going wrong. They've got like a list of 100 things they want to fix inside the house, but you can't fix all those things at once. But when you train the place command, that list of 100 problems that you have inside the house immediately drop to zero. Zero. Immediately. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that the place command fixes all of those problems. That's not what I'm saying. The place command as a management tool prevents the dog from engaging in all of those behavior problems that you have on your list. You see, this is very valuable. It gives you breathing room and space to think. So instead of you constantly, where's the dog at? Oh, he's doing this thing. And then he's doing this thing. Everybody's calm inside the house. Another big one is it helps you not hate living with your dog. So if your dog is constantly doing things that you hate, that is 100% going to impact how you interact with them on a regular basis, and especially during your training sessions. Even if you're not aware of it, even if it's completely subconscious, you don't even realize it, it is 100% going to impact how you view them and how you interact with them. So, but the place command will cause you to love your dog. If you have a dog who's currently everything is on fire inside the house, it's like hitting the reset button on your dog's behavior in the house. So oftentimes I see this a lot too. Like oftentimes people who either got a puppy and just didn't have the right guidance and just gave the dog all of this freedom, or got a new dog, like a new dog from the shelter, and they just gave all the dog all the freedom in the house right off the hop, and now they're just drowning in behavior problems. This is a very easy way just to hit the reset button. Reset, let's try again, right? Inside the house, create place. That's it, right? For the next couple weeks, that's it. We're going to completely reset the dog's behavior. Inside the house, the dog is going to associate being inside the house with just calm, chilling, relaxed. You send them to crate, they just sleep. You send them to a place board, they just sleep. Just relax. Outside the house, okay, now we're training, we're working together, we're doing stuff, we're having fun. Inside the house, calm. Easy, all right? It's a nice little reset button. And then when it comes time, a little later on in the training, when you're like, okay, I've got a grasp on everything, all right, everything's under control, all the fires have been extinguished, I've got some basic control now. All right, now let's go ahead and tackle that shoe eating problem. And then you can attack that one problem. All right, bam. Now we've got that out of the way. Okay, now let's handle the barking out the window. All right, now we got that out the way. See, like now you can start to strategically attack each of these things one by one instead of trying to just, you've got this list of 100 problems and you're like bouncing all around trying to fix them all at the same time. Like it's not going to work. And so this is a much more effective way to do that, in my opinion. Or if you've got a dog who is like very high energy, just like always looking to do stuff. Like you just went, for example, like you've got your border collies, your Malinois, like whatever, like dude, like you know what I'm talking. Like you just got back from like a 4-hour hike and like your dog is trying to do something. Like they're like pacing around the house looking for something to do all the time. Like it's like, let's give them a place to just chill. Like let's help them settle down. Let's help teach them this off switch. And it also teaches your dog impulse control. So remember that impulse control skill that we were talking about earlier in the loose leash walking? We're continuing to develop it, even with the place command. So how do we train it? Well, it's very simple. We start out just building a positive association with the place board by luring them on there with food, marking and rewarding once they get on. We guide them there using leash pressure, release the pressure once they get on, and they're starting to learn that being on the place board equals something good. That's it. And then we start to add the verbal cue. So once the dog's got that, now we start conditioning the basics. So place, and then we lure them over there, mark and reward once they get on. And then we start gradually adding the 3Ds, distance, duration, and distractions. And the key here is you want to do it incrementally. So you want to start out easy. Like, if you're trying to add distance, for instance, just take 1 step and then come back and reward the dog. Then take 2 steps, come back, reward the dog. Then take 4, then 6. Do it slow. And then like work your way up. And whenever your dog makes a mistake, no problem. You're just going to mark it with, you're going to grab the leash and make pressure back onto the place board. And then you take a step back and then you do it again. And then your dog understands. They learn, oh, I got it. Even in this situation, I have to stay on the place board, right? So you do that with all the 3Ds, distance, duration, and distractions. You increase it gradually. And we have a whole step-by-step tutorial on how to train the place command for free on YouTube. So like I said, I'll link it in the description if you want to take a look at it. So the next thing we train is the recall command. So the recall is when you call the dog's name and they understand they must turn and come to you. This is a essential behavior. If you want to give your dog any amount of freedom, you need to be able to trust that they'll come back when you call them. Now, you might notice that this is a little bit further down on the list. And if you take a look at Blueprint, which is our obedience training system, you'll see that we don't actually even start training the recalls until week 2 of the training. There's all of these things that we do before we even start training the recall. And the reason we do that is because the recall requires a bit more skill than the previous behaviors. But the good news is you've been developing those skills if you've been following this in order, right? The skills that you've learned, the leash handling basics that you learned in the loose leash walking, all of these skills that you learned as you were teaching, the sits, the downs, and the place command, those are all going to come into play now that we train the recalls. For a lot of dogs, it's the first time they learn that they must do what you say, even when they're far away from you. So a lot of dogs will learn that they have to listen to you when they're within 6 feet of you. But when they're far away, it's like, I don't think it applies. And so this is your chance to say like, nope, still applies. Like even when you're 30 feet away from me, it's the same. And it's like, oh, okay, got it. Because in order to give your dog more freedom, you need to be able to control them at a distance. That's fundamental. And your dog learns that they get to enjoy that freedom, but they must listen, even at a distance. And so you can see here that, again, you're cooperating together to achieve that mutually beneficial outcome. So how do you train it? Well, we want to start out on a 30-foot long line in the backyard or a low distraction environment. So like if you got an empty field or if you live in an apartment building, you can do this in your parking garage even. Then wait until your dog is distracted. Just walk around, wait until they get distracted by something, and then call the dog's name. Then they're going to ignore you if they don't know the recall already. So then you're going to make pop, 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 pop on the leash until the dog can't ignore it. So it's uncomfortable enough to where the dog can't keep doing what they were doing. They can't keep smelling the smell. It's too uncomfortable. If you need to increase the pressure, increase it. Then the moment the dog decides, man, this is uncomfortable, I'm going to like turn and come. The moment they make that decision, the moment they go from smelling the smell to this, that's when you mark with chip, and then you stop making pressure. So that popping pressure you were making immediately goes away. You mark it with chip, so the dog knows they're getting a reward. That's our reward marker. And then we're going to move backwards all the way, praising the dog all the way to us. Nice job, man. As we're running backwards, encouraging them to us, and then reward the dog once they get to us. with food or play if you're using a toy, right? Or if your dog doesn't take any of those things, you can just forego the chirp and just reward them with praise and affection once they get to you. That's how you train it. Again, we have a full video on how to train the recalls. I'll have it linked in the description. The fifth and final behavior that we train all dogs is the heel command. Now, the heel command is when the dog is walking right at your side, shoulders in line. They ignore distractions, no sniffing. They're fully locked in. Like if you speed up, they speed up. You slow down, they slow down. You turn, they turn. They're glued to your hip in that perfect position. This is my most used command by far. It's super useful. Whenever you need the dog just walking right next to you, right? You're passing by someone on the sidewalk, call them into a heel. You're on the trail and you're passing someone and their dog, call them into a heel. You're at the busy farmer's market, lots of stuff and people all over the place. You can't have them, loose in the environment. Call them into a heel. And they're walking right next to you. Again, it's my most used command by far. If it's so useful though, why do we train it last? Well, heeling is the most difficult behavior to train on this list. It has the most moving parts and requires the most skill. But the good news is that you've been developing all these skills as you were teaching the previous behaviors. So if you did it in the order that I laid it out, all of the skills that you learned, the loose leash walking, sits, downs, place, recall, all those skills are going to start coming together now as you're training the heel command. If you skip straight to the heeling, it's going to be a lot harder, slower, and you're going to create a lot of unnecessary stress for the dog as you struggle through it. The reason why the heeling is so hard for people to train, for beginners to train, is because if you want the heeling to be reliable, you're going to have to use negative reinforcement, aka pressure in the training. And the thing most beginners struggle with is the timely application and release of pressure. They really struggle with it in the beginning. And if you are not clear with the dog, you're going to create a lot of confusion, uncertainty, and stress around the behavior. And it's going to stunt your progress and your dog is going to get frustrated and so are you. And so that's why we train it last. So how do you train the heel command? Well, I break it up into two separate parts. You've got the heel entries and you've got the heel in motion. I work on them separately and then I start bringing them together. So the heel entries, you want to show the dog how to get into the position. So I start out dog in front of me, guide them into the position using a food lure or with leash pressure. And then once they're there, I mark with our reward marker, and then reward the dog in the position. And then you slowly fade out the lure and the leash and so on. The heel in motion is a bit more complicated. So you want the key here, this is when you're actually walking with the dog in the position. The key is you want to start out very, very easy at first. Don't do too much. So I'm talking like you guide the dog in position and you take like 3 steps. Good, nice job. Reward, like really, really short. Don't overdo it. And then work your way up to 5 steps and then 10 steps. Like make it very gradual. If the dog ever gets out of the position, you're going to mark with ah and make directional pressure on the leash back into the position. Once they're in the position, you release the pressure and that's it. And then you get back to praising them and rewarding them in the position. And then you slowly work your way up. Start incrementally adding distractions and so on. And by the way, you can join our training community completely free for 7 days. So if you're the type of person who likes having a step-by-step structured training plan that you can just execute in order and you don't like everything being all over the place, check it out. You can try it out. It's the first link in the description. Try it for free for 7 days and see how you like it. I'll see you inside.